Hey everyone, it's B, and you're listening to another episode of the In Your Feelings podcast. For those of you who are new here, In Your Feelings is a podcast I created with Thought Catalog that dives into the very real and very messy aspects of life that we are all navigating. I create these episodes just to have honest conversations about things like relationships and moving on and worthiness, things that can feel really disheartening and really confusing, in the hopes that these 30 minutes or so make you feel less alone in what you're feeling and remind you that you aren't the only person who's dealing with certain things in life. So today is the very first episode of the new year for In Your Feelings, and I wanted to dedicate it to talking about the promises we can all make ourselves this year. I know a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves to create resolutions when we enter into a new year. And while I think that that is so admirable, and while I think that that is a beautiful and impactful way to refresh your mindset and encourage yourself to achieve the things you want to achieve, I know that for myself personally, I would always create resolutions that were so large and so looming and so concrete, and it took me out of this mindset of doing things for myself as a form of self-love, as a form of self-growth, and it became more about running 10 miles each day or reading 100 books in a year. In a way, I got away from how the goal was meant to make me feel, and I focused so heavily on what that goal actually looked like that at times it stressed me out. It made me feel less productive if I didn't necessarily achieve that goal as quickly or as gracefully as I had hoped. And so I learned over the years how to simplify resolutions into promises. How much more impactful that was in my everyday life. At the beginning of the year, just promising myself to be kinder to myself. Promising myself to let go of the things that no longer served me. Promising myself to live a life that felt good on the inside rather than worry about what it looked like on the outside. And so by making myself promises, I held myself accountable for how I was showing up for myself each and every single day. And when I dedicated myself to that, when I really defended that, it honestly made me better. It felt more manageable as well. It helped me to make my mind a more peaceful place to be. It helped me to be more present with myself each day. And in that way, I grew. Not just within achievements, but also I grew within my heart and my soul. And I know that can sound cliche, but I think that is what we're all really just trying to achieve. We're all really just trying to find our way back to ourselves and into a life that feels like an extension of our worth, of our own version of happiness, of who we truly want to become. So to promise ourselves, to dedicate ourselves to that internal growth is a beautiful thing. So I wanted to create a podcast episode that could act as an inspiring way to look at the rest of your year and the promises you could potentially make yourself as you move through it. And I hope they inspire you to show up for yourself and to let go, to forgive, and so much more. I hope they truly do bring you back home to yourself. And so, firstly, this year, promise to treat yourself like a friend. This year, just be kinder to yourself. In everything that you do, think of yourself like a friend. Treat yourself like a friend. It can be difficult to change that mindset at times because we live our own lives, and we all have these internal worlds where we are constantly in our own heads. I get that. And those internal worlds are not often the most peaceful places to be, because I know that we all hold ourselves to a very specific standard. We want to grow, we want to heal, we want to do better and be better and so much more, that we can sometimes be extremely hard on ourselves. And that is valid because it means you care. I'll never vilify you for that. It means you care about what you're putting into this world and how you're showing up in this world. It means you care about meeting your potential, about being who you want to be. But within all of that, I think a lot of us have a hard time being kind to ourselves because we tend to err on the side of being our own worst critics. We're always pushing for more and always letting our pasts or our mistakes create this narrative of negative self-talk or self-doubt within our minds. It's like we're constantly putting so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect that we're not really ever allowing ourselves to be real or human. And that's why I think it's so important to promise to treat yourself like a friend this year. You care about so many human beings as if it were the deepest extension of yourself. You are empathetic. You have compassion for the people you love. You want the people in your life to experience all of the beauty it has to offer. You want to remind them of their worth every single day. You want to protect them from anything that could hurt them or harm them. You want to encourage them to walk away from the things that ask them to settle for less than what they are deserving of. You encourage them when they doubt themselves. You remind them of their unique potential. You speak so much love into them on their hardest days. This year, I want you to promise to do the same things for yourself. I mean, ask yourself, would you talk to someone you loved the way you talked to yourself? Would you allow for someone you love to be treated the way you allow yourself to be treated sometimes? Would you let someone you loved, someone you saw so much potential and beauty in, give so much of their energy and their time and their heart to those who did not value it? Would you let someone you loved vilify themselves for their mistakes, for their pasts, for the person they had to be in order to survive or heal? You wouldn't. You would be in direct opposition of it, and you are. You are constantly defending the people you love, protecting them, reminding them that they are good enough, that they are worthy, and you do this because that is what you do for the people you care about. So love yourself enough to be that for yourself as well. Promise yourself that even if it's hard at first, you'll work towards that kind of compassion for yourself. And when you feel self-doubt creep in, when you start to tell yourself that you aren't good enough, when you stay in situations that hurt just to make someone else comfortable, or just to not be alone, when you know you deserve more but you can't push yourself to stand up for that, remind yourself to treat yourself like a friend. Would you want any of that for them? If not, actively work towards being kinder within those negative thoughts. Actively work towards fostering compassion for yourself in a difficult situation. Actively work towards giving yourself the same empathy you give to everyone around you. Make it an active thing. Combat those thoughts and that pressure and that negativity, and meet yourself with kindness as best as you can. You are your own home. Make it a beautiful place to be this year. Secondly, this year, and I'm sure you all knew this one was coming because it is a constant theme on this podcast, but this year, promise yourself to let go of almosts. Promise yourself that you will stop allowing yourself to settle for less than you know you deserve, to keep giving so much of your heart to those who do not value it, to put so much time and energy and effort into those who are only ever loving you in halves. You gotta let go of that. You have to promise yourself that you will try your best to do that this year. And don't get me wrong, I say this every single time. I know how difficult it is to walk away from almosts. How difficult it is to be in a situation where you care so deeply for someone, or where you are genuinely excited about the potential you see in another human being. I know how dismantling those relationships can be. I know how hard it can be to see them for what they are, because they're often filled with a lot of hope and a lot of intensity, and you're just waiting for the day all of that is realized and all of that is concrete and rooted and whole. You're always waiting. I know how hard it can be to hold all of that hope within yourself, how heavy the weight of an almost can be, how much they can make you doubt yourself, how much they can make you question if you are enough for this person who only wants to love you in minimums. Almosts just shake up your heart. They make it question itself, and you don't deserve that. Because the love you have to give someone is so good. The love you have to give someone is deep and honest and empathetic. And if someone cannot see that, if someone cannot value that or meet that, you deserve to find the people who can. Please just promise yourself to let go of the people who leave your heart confused. Let go of the people who make you feel like you are compromising all that you desire, all that you hope for, all the goodness and the beauty that you know exists in this world for a malnourished version of love, for a skinny version of love. Let go of falling in love with potential, with falling in love with the idea of someone rather than who they truly are. Let go of the fears you have that keep you holding on to something that hurts, something that is so heavy, something that has only ever left you feeling misunderstood or unworthy or at war with yourself. Let go of waiting for the people you have always treated kindly to treat you kindly. Let go of waiting for the people you have always treated with respect to treat you with respect. Let go of waiting for the people you have always chosen to finally choose you. Let go of waiting. Let go of holding your breath, just hoping that things change. Let go. Don't allow yourself to get comfortable existing in spaces where you know you deserve better. Because love is not meant to hurt. I say this every single time. Love is not meant to hurt. Love is not meant to be given in bare minimums. Love does not require for you to be cooler or less emotional or less yourself for you to be worthy of it choosing you. Love just chooses you. In the good and in the bad, it isn't an almost thing. It isn't something you have to beg for. It isn't something you have to fight for constantly, something that is always a source of pain and confusion and hurt. There is power in letting go of anything that is forcing you to let go of yourself. Don't ignore what you know in your heart. Remember, it is better to be alone than to feel lonely in what you're settling for. It is better to be alone than to try to fit your heart into the hands of someone who does not want to hold it. It is better to be alone than to fight for someone who isn't fighting for you. It is better to be alone, to be your own foundation, than to spend any more of your time waiting for someone to see the beauty in what you are giving them. You deserve the best love, good love. Promise you will let go of anything that does not feel that way this year. Promise to stand up for your heart. And within this same concept, this year, promise yourself to believe that nothing is too good for you. This year, promise yourself to believe that you are worthy of everything you want in this life, and that you're not asking for too much. And I know that isn't easy. I know the world has ways of convincing you otherwise. I know that we have all gone through this life and have sometimes been weathered by it in ways we didn't necessarily ask for, but in ways that have stuck. In ways that have caused us to doubt what we deserve. And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry you had to experience things you didn't deserve. That you had to go through certain losses that carved into you lessons you were way too young to learn, or lessons that were just so heavy to carry. I'm sorry that somewhere along your journey, society convinced you that you were not beautiful, that you had to be smaller, that you had to want less, or settle for things outside of what you had always dared to hope for. I'm sorry that at times the world made you feel like you didn't hold space within it, that you didn't deserve to be here or to be loved, or to be the kind of person who achieved great and beautiful things. I'm sorry that you had to endure things at the hands of love that made you stop believing in its goodness, that made you stop believing in just how possible it was for you to find someone kind and honest and committed in this generation. I'm sorry that somewhere along your journey, you were convinced that you couldn't dream the way you wanted to dream, that you couldn't strive to experience all of the beauty this life has to offer. And I know that sometimes because of all of that, because of all you've been through, you doubt the part of yourself that knows there's more out there for you. You doubt the part of yourself that is trying to push you to believe that your past does not deserve to control you anymore. But you have to do it. You have to have the courage to believe in things you have yet to feel. You have to have the courage to believe that you are capable, that you are strong, that you are worthy no matter what the world tries to tell you. You have to have the courage to be your own guiding light, to validate your own purpose, to push yourself to believe that nothing is too good for you, that nothing is out of reach, that nothing you want in this life exists within impossibility if you're willing to leap towards it. You have to have the courage to crash every ounce of your hope into this world, outside of your past, outside of the opinions of others, outside of what society tells you is appropriate or achievable. And so whenever you feel that doubt creep in, promise that you'll remind yourself that nothing is too good for you, Whenever you doubt if you are deserving of the goodness that has come into your life, remind yourself that nothing is ever too good to be true for you. The things you want, the life you want to live, the people you hope to love, the way you want your life to feel it's possible for you. My voice cracks when I say that because I believe in it so deeply, and I hope you do too. It is possible. Don't convince yourself that it's just not in the cards for a person like you. Promise yourself to believe that you are worthy each and every single day, and especially on the days the world tries to convince you otherwise. Hold fast in your hope. Believe in impossibility. You are worthy of all that is kind and good and awe-inspiring in this world. Promise yourself that you will never forget that this year. Okay, I got pretty carried away with that one. But on another note, this year, promise yourself to remind yourself of just how far you've come. And I know that in a society that makes you feel like you have to constantly be moving forward, in a society that puts so much value in external achievements and often sells this concept of success or achievement as being a very specific thing, it can be difficult to connect with just how much you've achieved along your own unique journey. It can be difficult to connect with just how far you've come. Because at the end of the day, while it is a beautiful and inspiring thing to be the kind of person who is pushing themselves to achieve a level of happiness and success that exists on their own terms, to have goals and aspirations and dreams, sometimes we can be so focused on what is ahead of us that we forget to honor and embrace what we have survived. Sometimes when we feel like we haven't grown at all, it takes looking at who we used to be to realize that so much growth happened when we didn't even feel like it was taking place. That in the dark or in these moments of deep rest, we changed and we healed in the quietest of ways. We pushed ourselves forward. We managed to evolve. We managed to stay strong enough to make it to where we are now, and that within itself is an achievement that deserves to be celebrated. So this year, promise to remind yourself of just how far you've come. When you feel like you're falling behind, think back to all of the moments in your life where you thought the same thing and just how much those seasons of confusion or slow growth taught you about yourself. When you feel like you are never going to heal a broken heart, think back to all of the moments in your life where you held the same heart in your hands and you put its broken pieces back together. How you healed slowly and in the smallest ways, day after day. When you feel like you will never get out of the dark, remind yourself of the moments in your life that enveloped you in a heavy kind of hope. Remember how you tucked light into yourself and fought to be here today. Remind yourself of all the ways you survived when you didn't think you were capable. Nothing in this life has ever had the ability to defeat you. If anything tests your resilience this year, remind yourself of that. Bring yourself back. Remind yourself of the ways in which you have always saved yourself so many times before. You have come so far, and you should honor that. And within that, this year, promise to stop comparing yourself to others. And this is so important to me because I feel like within the last year especially, we have all grown even more attached to social media as a means of experiencing life or feeling connected. Apps like Instagram and TikTok have the capacity to fill our days with so much stimulation and so many perspectives and illustrations of life. And while we know that most of social media is a highlight reel, it can be difficult to disconnect from that when it's a main form of what we're consuming. It can be difficult not to feel a little sad that we don't look like someone we think is beautiful online. It can be difficult to not feel a little discouraged or lonely when we see beautiful videos of happy couples splashed across our feeds. It can be a little difficult not to feel like we're falling behind when we see the achievements of others scrolling across our phones constantly. Social media can be really disarming and very polarizing, and it's extremely difficult not to compare our lives to those we see online. And so I just want to remind you firstly that this is so human. These feelings are very real and very valid, and it's important to really pay attention to them when they arise, because it's within that awareness that we can reframe how we're letting them affect or control us. And when you start to notice yourself comparing yourself, when you start to notice yourself wishing that your timeline looked more like someone else's when it comes to their career or their success or their relationships, remind yourself that you are living your own unique life and that your journey is an extension of that. You are going to achieve the things you want to achieve. You are going to find good love. You are going to heal. You cannot lose what is for you. You will never miss out on the things that are meant to happen for you in life. I truly, truly believe that. I talk about it all the time. So within that concept, just know that you don't have to rush yourself forward. You don't have to force anything into happening before it is meant to happen in your life, because it is going to come to fruition. So get clear with what you want. And more so, get clear with yourself on how you want your life to feel rather than what you want it to look like on the outside. And go in that direction. Have intention with it. Believe that it's going to happen for you, that it's unfolding within its own unique way in your life, and try your best not to compare that journey or that timeline to anyone else's, because it is uniquely yours. You got to trust in that. And I think that brings me to my last point, which is to promise to take 15 minutes out of each day to make yourself the person you want to be. And I know that sounds really vague and overarching, but if you think about it, how can you take 15 minutes for yourself each and every day? For your goals, for your self-care, for your heart? How can you show up for yourself? We build so many resolutions around these large and looming things, and while I do think those hold space, I also think that they can be really overwhelming. They aren't always sustainable resolutions. And so why not start small? Why not make a micro shift in your day each day? You don't have to run for an hour, but you can push yourself to move your body for 15 minutes. You don't have to read 3 books a week, but you can push yourself to read for 15 minutes before bed. And you don't have to only treat yourself to a self-care moment when you're depleted and you feel like you'll bubble over with anxiety if you don't. You can take 15 minutes each and every single day to put your phone down, to connect with yourself, to do a face mask, to take a hot shower, to even do something as simple as taking a moment to sit and ensure that you're drinking enough water. These things sound so small, but I promise they add up. And if I'm being honest, it's it's not even about the specific things you're doing. It's more about the fact that you're doing them for yourself. You're showing up for yourself. You're being kind to yourself. You are taking time for yourself no matter what, on even your hardest or busiest days. You're doing something that makes you better in even the quietest, smallest, what feels like the most insignificant way. I promise it's not insignificant. I promise it improves your life because you really start connecting with the fact that you're nurturing yourself. You are nurturing your body, you are nurturing your mind, and it becomes a habit. And I think that's really special. And that's something you learn to embrace. That is something that you learn to celebrate because, in a way, it's teaching you to celebrate and honor yourself, to treat yourself with kindness, and to stand up for the future version of yourself that you're becoming. 15 minutes each day, whatever it may be, whatever that looks like for you. Dedicate yourself to it. Promise it to yourself each and every day because you deserve it. Okay, that's all for today. I promise I'm done. I hope these words helped. I hope these little reminders inspired you to make your own promises to yourself this year. Thank you all for being here. I am so unbelievably excited to be starting another season of this podcast, and I truly can't wait to share more episodes with you. Until then, as always, if you are looking for a little more encouragement, or if you'd like to read more of my writing or transcripts of this podcast, you can always find those through my newsletter, which is linked in the description. And you can also check out my book, The Strength in Our Scars and a Gentle Reminder, which is coming out so soon. I'm so excited. On shopcatalog.com, which is my publisher's website. And it's filled not only with my books, but also other books that I know will inspire you if you're looking for a new collection to read this year. So I'll also make sure that I link that in the description as well for you to check out. With that being said, thank you for listening again. I've said that 5 times. I hope you're taking care of yourselves out there, and I hope you know how loved you are.